purpose of these shiurim is to strengthen and explain and help us understand better the ideas of Emunah and Bitachon, the real meaning of faith in Hashem and trust in Hashem. And as is simply understood that Bitachon and Emunah are definitely interconnected. Without Emunah, there can't be Bitachon. Without believing in Hashem and knowing what Hashem is all about, one can't have the true Bitachon, the true trust in Hashem. But even more than that, according to the level of a person's Emunah, and according to a person's understanding in his Emunah, that's how much his Bitachon will be. The more a person understands who the Eibishter is, who is this one that we're believing in, the more he can connect to the Bitachon, to the faith that he has in him. And as it's explained at length in Chayvas Alvavis, in Shara Bitachon, that the real Bitachon is that the person has a full belief and a full trust in the one whom he's trusting in. He knows that he is all capable and he's the one in charge, he's the one who can do anything. So with regards to this idea of Emunah and Bitachon, there is the famous saying of the Rabbi, the Tzemach Tzedek, which was passed on from generation to generation, Tracht gut wird sein gut. Think good and it will be good. And if we think deeper into the meaning of this, it's not only positive thinking. It's not only a question of if I think positively, it will affect my surroundings that things become positive. There's something much deeper here. And like the Rebbe explains in the famous Sikha, that Bitachon is an avoid on its own, as a result of Emunah. Once I believe in the Eibishter, and once I know that the Eibishter can do anything, when I demonstrate that in my practical life, of actually having faith in Him, then that itself brings the reward, even if a person wasn't deserving of it up until then. Because the concept of schar and oynesh, of punishment and reward, is not something that chas v'shalom you can do away with. It's one of the ikrei emunah, it's one of the bases of Jewish faith. But even if a person isn't deserving of having the good happen to him, by the fact that he did the avodah of trusting in Hashem, that in itself brings the good, as is explained at length in Sefer HaZayar and in other places. Now there's those who have a question, and in fact many Sfarim discuss it, and there's those who want to explain the idea of Bitachon, that the deepest kind of Bitachon is that I have full faith in Hashem, that whatever He wants to give me is good, and I'm accepting whatever He gives me, whether I understand the good in it or I don't. Why would I say trach good, that I have to think good in my way? Maybe Hashem looks at a different good. The truth is, if that was the case, then why would we ask in davening, Im chatasi lefanecha mechaik berachamecha rabim, erase my sins, and we add avaloi al yidei yisurim v'chalayim raim. I don't want you to do it through suffering. If Hashem sees fit to do it through suffering, do it through suffering. Someone who accepts suffering lovingly, the Gemara says, Hasmeichim b'yisurim, those who are rejoicing in suffering, Aleim akasu v'aymer v'ayavav kitzeis hashemesh b'gvurasei. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, that just like the sun that's now hidden, you don't see the full glory and the full power of the sun. If the sun comes out of its concealment, is the most powerful sun possible. Yisurim, suffering, come from Alma Diskasya, they come from a deeper good, from the hidden world. And when Mashiach comes and that's fully revealed, the one who accepted it lovingly is able to get it in its full way. If we look in the Gemara in Brachas tells us that Rabbi Yochanan was asked, Chaviv in Yisurim, do you love Yisurim? Do you love suffering? Is suffering beloved upon you? And this is after the Gemara gives a lengthy explanation of how amazing Yisurim is. And Rabbi Yochanan said, Lo yehem v'lo yischaram. I don't want the Yisurim, I don't want the suffering, and I don't want the reward that comes with it. Also, Rabbi Lezer said the same thing, Lo yehem v'lo yischaram. What were they saying? Let them say whatever Hashem wants, that's what I want. If Hashem wants me to suffer, I'll lovingly accept the suffering. There's a famous statement from the Frierdiker Rebbe. After the Frierdiker Rebbe suffered in the most untold suffering in prison in Russia, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said the following, if someone would give me all the money in the world so that I should accept upon myself one moment of that terrible deathly suffering, I wouldn't take it. And if someone would give me all the money in the world to take away one moment of the suffering that I had in the past, I wouldn't take it. The suffering that I had in the past brought me to the highest possible levels. And yet I don't want even another moment of it. Why not? If a person is a true Eved of Hashem, if a person is a true servant of Hashem, he trusts whatever Hashem does is good. Maybe Hashem wants me to suffer now. But the truth is, as we said earlier, Bitachon is something which depends on Emunah. Bitachon is something which is an outcome of Emunah. The one who believes in Hashem truly and fully. If I believe in Hashem, then I believe that Hashem is unlimited. Hashem is not limited to my understanding, to my way of doing things. And therefore, we can tell Hashem, V'lo yalidei yisurim v'cholayim ra'im. And as the Rebbe points it out in a Maimer, that the Eibishter is kol yachol to give me the greatest possible greatness that there is without having to suffer chas v'shalom. And therefore a person says, my true belief, my true emunah in the Eibishter is that the Eibishter does everything and that everything comes from him. But my true emunah in the Eibishter is that the Eibishter is also kol yachol, he can do anything. And that anything that he can do is that he has the ability to give me what I want, to bring me to the highest possible level of Avedas Hashem, without having to suffer one iota. And that's what Rabbi Yochanan said, and that's what Rabbi Lezer said, and that's what we say every day in davening. The true emunah is that the Eibishter is kol yachol, he can do anything, and therefore from that comes the bitachon, that since the Eibishter can do everything, the same Eibishter that can do anything, that has the ability, he doesn't need the Yisurim, he doesn't need to give me the suffering, the same Eibishter will give it to me without suffering, and especially since the Eibishter doesn't want me to suffer. We know that the Gemara tells us that when a person suffers, Shchina malasha nemeres kalani miroishi kalani mizrahi, that the Eibishter, so to speak, is suffering, kavyachol, when a Jew suffers, would the Eibishter bring suffering upon himself? If I didn't bring myself to the level of managing to do it without, then that's the way he brings me to the highest level. But when I have a full bitachon in the Eibishter that he will do it without, then he does it without, and he gives me all of those milas, but without having to have to suffer, and he brings me to the highest level of Avedas Hashem, without having to have any iota of Yisurim. That's the tracht gut v'zayin gut. And like we learned in the Sikha, if Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have Vayira Moshe, if he wasn't afraid, then Pari wouldn't have found him, Pari wouldn't have tried to kill him. The fact that Pari found out and tried to kill him was something that caused Moshe Rabbeinu to run away to Midian, which was all a necessary thing. Hashem would have arranged it all in a different way. Hashem is kol yachol, Hashem can do anything. And that's the ultimate point of it, is that the Eibishter is kol yachol. The Emunah is that the Eibishter can do anything. He's not limited to my understanding, to my limitations, to my way of grasping things. The Eibishter can do things in his way, and he definitely doesn't want a Jew to suffer. And therefore I have 100% bitachon. Bitachon meaning assuredness, a certainty that it will be without suffering, and that the Eibishter will give it to me in Tov Anireh V'Nigla, in the open and revealed good, in the most powerful way. Let's go on to the next idea. There's a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe, which the Rebbe quotes in Lukutei Sichos Chelik Gimel, explaining what does the meaning of bitachon, what does true bitachon mean according to the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. Now the word bitachon means trust, but the word bitachon means something even deeper. The word bitachon means certainty. Certainty. Batuach means I'm certain. I know without the shadow of a doubt that this is the way it is. And the Frierdiker Rebbe gives a scenario that the world says if a person is drowning in the big ocean, a drowning person grabs on even to a straw. What does a straw mean? The straw is unconnected to anything. It's lying there in the big ocean. Holding on to a straw in a big ocean has no way in the world of saving a person from drowning. And yet the drowning person tries to grab on to anything he can, he'll grab on even to that straw. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, that's not called bitachon. The drowning person who's grabbing onto a straw, that's not bitachon, that's tikva, hope. Brings from the pasuk tikva schut hashani. Hope. The drowning person has hope in anything. Any possibility gives him hope. Bitachon is when there is no straw to grab onto. There is no makom whatsoever. There's no place whatsoever in the nature of the world which enables the person to be able to be saved. And to add, that doesn't necessarily mean that in order to be true bitachon, it has to be a situation where there's no place to be saved. But rather that in the person's mind, he's not grasping at any straws, he's not grasping at any hope, because look, naturally it looks good. He's grasping at the one true thing, which is his 100% certainty in the one who runs the world. And for this reason, what happens, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, if the person will walk around and he says, I trust, I'm certain, I know the Eibishter will help me, even though there's no place in nature for it, or even though I'm not thinking about the natural way of being helped, I'm thinking only about the Eibishter. If the person walks around and tuga chadish is nesucha al panav, he has a sadness on his face, he has a deep worry lines etched in his face, then that's not the bitachon that we were taught by the Baal Shem Tov. The bitachon we were taught by the Baal Shem Tov is that when there's no straw and there's no way and he's drowning in the great ocean, and yet he is so certain that he's dancing already, he's happy and excited because he knows beyond the shadow of a doubt as if he's been saved already. How does a person get there? How does a person get to that place? I'll tell a story, which is a personal story. My grandfather, Rabbi Dov Yehuda Shochet, was a Litvisher Rav from Telz. Later he was a Rav in Switzerland, in Basel, and then in The Hague, in Holland. And after that he came to Canada. When he came to Canada, the people who helped him settle were the Lubavitcher Chassidim, and so they were the people who he lived nearest to. At that time, a story happened that shook up the whole town. The Rav of the Lubavitcher Chassidim in Edinburgh Shul, Rabbi Akiva Lipsker, had a daughter Batsheva, who was very sick. She had scarlet fever. Scarlet fever, at that time, they had no cure for it. They had no way to deal with it. And it was Achas Dase. She was in the hospital. Ishtaint, Nishtavkedim Gedacht, in a terrible situation. He wrote to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, make a Kiddush in Shul. Make a happy Kiddush in Shul. As a Suda Saidah, as a thankfulness to Hashem for the miracle that He's going to make. Now he had an issue, because the Edinburgh Shul wasn't big enough for the Kiddush he wanted to make. So he knew my grandfather. My grandfather at that time was the Rav in the Ostreicher Shul, which was a bigger shul. And he said to him, look, by the time we're finished Shachris, you guys are way finished Shachris, and you finished your Kiddush, and you're already all home, finished the Suda Shabbos. Can we use your shul? It's a bigger shul. Can I use your shul to make the Kiddush after davening? And so my grandfather said to him, sure. But if you don't mind, after the Shabbos Suda, I come to shul to learn, so I'll be sitting in the corner. I hope I don't disturb you. I'll be sitting in the corner and learning while you have your Kiddush. So here you have the big Litvisher Rav. He's coming, he's learning on Shabbos afternoon. And he sees for the first time in his life these Russian Chassidim come after davening, make Kiddush on Mashka, and start huling the way Russian Chassidim know how to do it. Dancing and jumping on the tables, sitting in his corner and learning. After the Kiddush, he called over Rabbi Lipsker. And he said to him, I've been looking at watching your people's behavior, and I have two options. Either you guys have a very strong Emunah Tzadikim. You have a strong faith in Tzadikim, and if the Rebbe said it will be good, you believe it will be good. Or you guys are Pashat Chayis Rois. How could you be sitting and huling and jumping like this when your daughter's on her deathbed in the hospital? And he says to him, I think it's the second option. To understand it, we're not talking about in Telz, in Lita, they didn't grow up on the same type of Sipurei Tzadikim that most of us grew up on. Miracle stories. They didn't have this concept of a Rebbe. And so for them it was a total foreign thing. If someone's sick, someone's sick. So you ask the bracha from a tzaddik, oh, very good, but you go say to him, where's the l'simcha mazuaisa? Sure enough, she became totally better. She recovered totally. This story had a very strong impact on him. It was a new outlook, something in life that he's never seen, that he's never experienced. And so when shortly later, and everyone knows the story, his daughter, my aunt, was burnt, third degree burns, and the doctors gave up hope right away. And he asked the Rebbe for a bracha, and he got brachas, and the whole long story of the brachas that he got. And he actually turned them to Rabbi Lipsker at one point in time, and he said, no, I got a bracha from the Rebbe. You got a promise. Because you, the Rebbe, told to make a Kiddush. For me, the Rebbe only said it will be all right. He didn't have a telephone in his home. And so all correspondences were done through other phones. And Rabbi Lipsker comes to him the next day and says, I just got a phone call from Askiris, from the Rebbe's secretary, and he said you should make a Kiddush in Shul. And so they say, duh. And in fact, the hero was that my grandmother, his wife, has to be the one to prepare the Kiddush. And his first reaction, just out of, he grabbed Rabbi Lipsker by his lapel. He says, you're lying, du likest. He said, no, I wouldn't lie about such things. And sure enough, everyone knows also the end of that story. What was this story, and what is there something amazing and powerful in this story? I want to dissect a little point in this. My grandfather one time came to Rabbi Yoel Khan, and he said to him, you know the difference between you and me? He said to him, you were born a Lubavitcher, your parents, your grandparents were Lubavitchers, and so you were forced to be a Lubavitcher. That's your life. Whoever is going to be the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's who you'll follow. If someone else would be the Lubavitcher Rebbe, you would follow him. That's party line. He said, I'm not a Lubavitcher. I wasn't born in Lubavitch. I never did Minhagei Chabad. I met the Rebbe. I've met many great people and many great Gedolim before the war, in the pre-war Europe. And when I saw the Rebbe, I saw something that I've never seen in my life. And he said, and that's why I decided to follow the Rebbe. If the Rebbe was the Babov Rebbe, I would go to Babov. I'm following the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. If he happens to be Lubavitch, that's why I'm following Lubavitch. Now there's a question, an intellectual question over here. What caused the Litvischer Goin to leave his minhagim, to leave his nusach tefillah, to leave everything that he was familiar with, and to follow Lubavitch, just in order to follow the Lubavitcher Rebbe? What was it that he saw? Someone who thinks that it was the maifis, the miracle, is extremely shallow, and is extremely belittling, not just of the person who doesn't understand what type of person he was, but belittling of a whole generation of people. A miracle isn't something that causes a person to change his derech, to change his outlook in life, to change everything that he's been before in life. A miracle is something that causes you maybe to respect the one who brought the miracle. Doesn't make sense for anyone, any thinking person, to say that this great Litvischer Goin is going to follow, instead of the derech in Telz where he was before the war. That what caused him to decide? Because he saw miracles. There's something much deeper and much greater that he saw in the Rebbe. And to point it out, before he met the Rebbe, he also learned Tanya, because in Telz they learned Tanya. In the Shiur Das in Telz they mentioned Tanya. He learned many Chkira Sfarim, many Musar Sfarim. There was a whole derech, there was a whole path. It wasn't just a yeshiva, it was a whole derech in Avodas Hashem. A whole derech in Avodas Hashem, which included learning Tanya, but yet that didn't bring him, the learning Tanya, to decide, I'm going to become a Lubavitcher. I'm going to change my minhagim and my nusach tefillah. It was seeing the Rebbe, seeing something special, something that caused him to understand, this is the person who can bring me to the Eibishter in a way that nothing else and no one else can. In fact, all his friends had claims and had tainis, there's letters. How can a Telzoi become a Lubavitchoi? It doesn't work together. And it wasn't just a decision which was made lightning swift. It was a decision which was made after much thought, after much decision and much going back and forth. Everything and all the things that he's learned before, Akiva and Musar and Tanya brought him to understanding that this person, this man, is someone who can bring him to the Eibishter. What was it? The concept of being able to trust that everything will be good, that's Bitachon. In whichever way you look at Bitachon, that's Bitachon. The concept of being able to dance on the tables as if it's already good, and not just as if, but to already feel the good. That's something which is a Rebbe and Isha Likim that's able to bring you to that ability. And the ability is based on Emunah, is based on realizing what the Eibishter is about. Let's go on to another concept in order to understand this. Not another concept, but a very important concept. Something which for us today specifically is the most important thing, because it's not just a question of bitachon and emunah on a private level. We're told by the Rebbe that our mission and our job is one and only, which is to bring Mashiach, and even more than that, to live with Mashiach. How is that possible? How is it possible that a person can be sitting in Galus? How is it possible that a person can be in a state where everything around him is complete darkness? All the things that were promised about Mashiach, la yesham, la rav, la milchama, la chayli, there's sickness, there's wars, there's hunger, there's a galus pnimi in Avedas Hashem that I feel I can't get out of. The darkness is intense and gets stronger and more intense from day to day. How can we be told, live with Mashiach, live in a Mashiach state? And what does that even mean? Live with Mashiach, what does it mean? Mashiach is here? Mashiach is not here. And like the Rebbe points out, in the famous Sikha of Machdar Eretz Yisrael, Parshas Pinchas Tafshin Nun Aleph, we daven 3 times a day, facing Eretz Yisrael because we're not in Eretz Yisrael. We daven facing the direction of Eretz Yisrael, the direction of Yerushalayim, the direction of Beis HaMikdash, because we're not there. And we ask 3 times a day, V'sechazena, Eineinu v'shuv chalitzion berachamim. We haven't seen it yet. So how can you say, Machda Eretz Yisrael, here? Here's Golus. Here's not Eretz Yisrael. And the truth is that this same Rebbe was able to take the Litvish Goyin and bring him to the realization of being able to rejoice now for a miracle that didn't happen yet, as if it happened. That brought him to realization, this Rebbe, this person is the one who can bring me to this understanding. Even more than what the Tanya, because the Tanya is the Sefer, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, as we know, the famous thing. The Alter Rebbe was a Litvak, and a Litvak doesn't believe until he counts the money in his hands. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya showed us a Lezechus b'muchash clearly. And yet, there's a step further, which is dafka by connecting to the Rebbe. This Rebbe gives us the ability to be able to live in Galus, in a Galus Pnimi, in Inyane Avedas Hashem, and yet be able to say, here I am living with Mashiach. In order to understand this, let's examine a Sikha from last week's Parsha, Parshas Shemais, that the Rebbe spoke in Tafshin Nun Beis, where the Rebbe actually asks this question. In the beginning of the Fabrengen, the Rebbe asks the question. We say, Ve'ela Shemais B'nei Yisrael Abai Mitzrayma. These are the names of the children of Israel who came to Mitzrayim. They came to Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, they had the Vayamas Yosef V'chol Echa V'chol Hadeirahu. The entire generation who had come with them died. They had the Vayavidu Mitzrayim as B'nai Yisrael B'farech, the hard work. They had the last 86 years since the birth of Miriam, the most bitter years. And yet from the first moment they came in Mitzrayim, we say, Al Shem Gulasan Shal Yisrael Nichtevu Kan. Their coming to Mitzrayim was part of the redemption, and as the Rebbe points out, not just the redemption from Mitzrayim, which happened 210 years later, but not just the 210 years filled with all kinds of terrible things. But even more than that, the redemption, the future redemption, which is after the coming to Eretz Yisrael, the building of the Beis HaMikdash, the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash, the destruction, 2,000 years of Galus, the final Gula is all there in Abayim Mitzrayim. How can that be? I'm sure everyone learned this Sikha. I'm not going to chazer over the entire Sikha, but just bring out a point that the Rebbe explains in the Sikha, an idea in Nigla. And you'll excuse me here, I'm not here to say a pilpul in Nigla, but to explain and understand and see something unbelievable. That the Rebbe in a few short words explains one concept which gives light on the entire Shas. I'm not going to go through that now because that's not the point, but just for the points of it, and it's not in order to understand this idea, but it's because when we'll understand this, we can understand what this Sikha is all about and what the Rebbe is telling us. The most amazing and powerful thing that the Rebbe is explaining to us, not just to the Jewish people, Reuven v'Shimon Nachtin, the Reuven and Shimon that came into Mitzrayim, how they can already be living with Gulasam Shal Yisrael, not just the redemption from Mitzrayim, but the final and complete redemption, but that today, in the dark moments of Tafshin Pei, when the darkness seems as intense as can be from all sides, and we don't have to go into, everybody themselves knows, Yada Inish Benafshe, both in the world in general and everyone in their private lives, what type of darkness it is. And yet we can live Mashiach, but not just live Mashiach, but live Mashiach in a way that we can already be dancing now like Miriam, who had the tupim and mecheles and was already dancing in the bitterness of Galus for the redemption, but not just dancing for a future redemption which is going to come. Not just trach, good thing, good that is going to be good, but already living with that good now in a way that we can dance and sing with it and feel it in the most full and complete manner. The Rebbe quotes a Gemara. The Rebbe brings the last Mishnah in Masechta in the first parak of Brachas. Mazkirin Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilis. We mention Yitzias Mitzrayim also at night, which the Rebbe explains means the night and the darkness of the Golus. Amar Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah. Comes along Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah and he says, Arei ani keven shivim shana, I am as if I'm 70 years old. I've become in a state like I'm 70 years old. Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah was all of 18 at the time, was already in a state of being 70 years old. And yet I never managed. The word zachisi from the word zakus, I was never able to refine the world to an extent that even in the night and the darkness of Galus we should feel that Yitzias Mitzrayim. Ache drasha ben Zayma, until ben Zayma said the drasha. And what was ben Zayma's drasha? Leman tizkar es yemtzeischa me'aretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha. Yemei chayecha hayamim kol yemei chayecha lahavi aleilis. V'chachamim maimrim, whether chachamim are arguing or chachamim is a continuation, different opinions that the Rebbe brings, all of those opinions, but that the chachamim say yemei chayecha elam haza kol yemei chayecha lahavi l'maisa Mashiach. Which means kol yemei chayecha, all the days of your life, including the nights, the darkness. The darkness of the night is part and parcel of the lehavi l'maisa Mashiach, bringing the l'maisa Mashiach. It's all part of it. It's all one thing. Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah said, I never managed to do it. Today I managed to do it. What was the today that Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah managed to do it? And the Rebbe goes into an amazing story in short words. But let's examine a little bit this story that happened there. A story that seems to be a strange story, and yet which is one of the most powerful stories around. There was a Talmud, a student in the Beis Medrash. He came to Rabbi Yeshua. And he asked Rabbi Yeshua, tell me, Rabbi Yeshua, Tfilas Arvis Rishus Eichayva. Ma'ariv, is it Rishus? Is it something which is optional? Or like Tosfos explains, not fully optional, but at least in regard to what we're speaking about, it's like it's optional? Or is it an obligation? Said to him Rabbi Yeshua, Rishus, optional. Optional, meaning if there's another mitzvah that you have first, you'll do that first. The same Talmud went along to Rabbi Gamliel, who was the Nasi. And he said to him, Rabbi Gamliel, tell me, Tfilas Arvis Rishus Eichayva, is Ma'ariv optional or is it an obligation? Said Rabbi Gamliel, Chayva, it's an obligation. Said the Talmud to Rabbi Gamliel, but Rabbi Yeshua told me it's Rishus. Says to him Rabbi Gamliel, Hamten, wait achi konsu bale treisen lebeis hamedrash. Let's wait until the Chachamim, who are the warriors, until they'll come into the Beis Medrash, and then you'll ask your question again. The Chachamim come into the Beis Medrash. Rabbi Gamliel is the Nasi, he's the Rosh Yeshiva, he's the one giving the Shiur. And he says, we have someone who has a question, stand up and ask your question. Stands up the Talmud and he says, tell me, Tfilas Arvis is Rishus or Chayva? Rabbi Gamliel says to him, Chayva. It's an obligation. And then Rabbi Gamliel turns to all the Chacham Beis Medrash, which included Rabbi Yeshua, and he says, does anybody have anything to say about this? Nobody had anything to say. He turned to Rabbi Yeshua and he said, V'aloi mishimcha amru li Rishus. I was told by a Talmud that you said it's Rishus. Rabbi Gamliel didn't answer. Rabbi Yeshua didn't answer. And Gamliel said to Rabbi Yeshua, Yehoshua amayid al raglecha, stand up on your feet. Stand up on your feet. And there's a girsa, which either we do say the girsa or don't say it. V'yoidu b'cha, let's testify. Let's say that what you said. Rabbi Yeshua said, listen, there's nothing I can do. If he was alive, if he was dead and I was alive, I could deny it. Now I'm alive and he's alive, how can I deny it? Rabbi Yeshua continues to stand until Rabbi Gamliel is continuing to give his shiur, until everyone said, that's it, we can't deal with this. And they told Chutzpis, the Meturgamon, to stop. He stopped, and then everyone said, this is enough. Last year was Yom Kippur, and Rabbi Gamliel started up with Rabbi Yeshua. Then again in Becheres, again he started up with Rabbi Yeshua. Now again he's starting up with him, this is enough, we can't deal with this anymore. Ta Navre, let's get rid of Rabbi Gamliel from the Nasias. They got rid of Rabbi Gamliel and they said, who are we going to make the Nasi? We can't make Rabbi Yeshua, he's the Bala Maisa. We can't make Rabbi Akiva Nasi because Rabbi Akiva doesn't have Zchus Avis. Let's make Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. He's the 10th generation from Ezra. He has Zchus Avis. He's rich. He's wise. He's the right guy for this, for the story. You know, they bring in Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, I have to ask my wife. His wife says, well, what do you mean you don't have white hair? So a miracle happens and he gets white hair. So he looks like he's 70 years old. That day is the day that they said Mazkirin Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilis and a lot of other halachas in the Beis Medrash. Later on, Rabbi Gamliel goes to Rabbi Yeshua and he sees that Rabbi Yeshua is a blacksmith. He says, from the walls of your house I can see that you're a blacksmith because they're black. And Rabbi Yeshua says to Rabbi Gamliel, woe is to the generation that you are its leader. You don't even know the tzares of Talmidei Chachamim with what they're being misparnes, what they have to do to make money. So Rabbi Gamliel says, I'm coming to beg your forgiveness. Forgive me. And he says he didn't answer him. He says, do it for the honor of my father's home. So he forgave him, and then they went back to the Chachamim, and the whole story that happened. An amazing story, but we're not going to go into the whole story now. Until they brought back, and they put back Rabbi Gamliel, And they said 2 weeks Rabbi Gamliel will teach, and 1 week Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah will teach. And then the Gemara says, and that's why we say, whose Shabbos was it? It was the Shabbos of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And who was this Talmud? Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Nice story, which from beginning to end doesn't seem to make any sense. Rabbi Yeshua said it's Rishus. Why didn't he stand up and say that what he said? And he did the same story in Bechayres. In Bechayres, they had also an argument about a Bechayr, if you make a difference between a Chaver and a Maaretz. Rabbi Yeshua said, you do differentiate. Rabbi Gamliel said, you don't differentiate. Why doesn't Rabbi Yeshua stand up for himself and say what he believes? Why did he keep quiet? Why did Rabbi Gamliel take it so personally? It wasn't like Rabbi Gamliel said it first. What's he telling him? Stand on your feet. What is his business? Stand on your feet. What's this whole business of let's get rid of him? Getting rid of Anasi? It's quite something powerful. We're looking for someone. We find Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That day he says what he says. It's a very strange story. And then we say we want to get him back. And the whole story that they sent to Koivis was Eliyahu Hanavi. They didn't want to listen to him. Then Rabbi Yeshua himself went and he made what was going on in this story and why is it important after the entire story to tell us who was that Talmud Reb Shimon ben Yochai. In Bechayres it doesn't tell us who the Talmud was. Over here it tells us the Talmud is Reb Shimon ben Yochai. What is this story and what's going on? If we look at the Rebbe's Sikha, we see an amazing explanation, in short, of what the story is, but an explanation which can help us understand something powerful. So I'm going to try and do it in short. There's something which there's amazing things that we can learn from every part of the story. But let's just look at the general idea. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 Talmidim. From those 5 Talmidim, there was Rabbi Yeshua, there was Rabbi Elazar, there was Rabbi Shimon ben Nesanel, there was Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, there was Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch. We're told, the Rebbe explains these 5 Talmidim, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was like Moshe Rabbeinu. The 5 Talmidim are like the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Each one of them is another path in Torah. One of these Talmidim was Rabbi Elazar ben Horkanus. One of these Talmidim was this Rabbi Yeshua that we're discussing, Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Rabbi Elazar ben Horkanus and Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya had 2 paths and 2 ways with which they served the Eibishter. Rabbi Elazar ben Horkanus was a boyer sud she'enei ma'abed tipa. Rabbi Elazar ben Horkanus, as the Rebbe explains it, it's a pit, which is a plastered pit, meaning he was one who, on his own, was able to receive anything that the teacher taught him. It came from his own avodah. The same argument between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua, B'tishrei nivra elam or B'nisan nivra elam. B'tishrei nigalu or B'nisan nigalu. Same Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua, Ashrei Yoladitoi. Ashrei Yoladitoi means he receives his oisher from above. The 2 paths, the Rebbe explains, the Rebbe brings it in the Siddur Arizal, is the paths of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Rabbi Elazar, we know, was called Hashamutoi. Hashamutoi means he went in the path of Shammai. Not that he went fully in the path of Shammai, but he went at least in the direction of Shammai. He didn't follow Shammai because the halacha was already made like Beis Hillel, but he went in that path. In the whole story, which we won't go into now, everyone knows the story in Bava Metzia, where Rabbi Elazar is saying the Tanur Shalachnoy, and he's saying it's tar, and the Chachamim are saying Tameh, and Rabbi Elazar is saying, let this prove, let that prove, let the other thing prove. What's he saying? Let all these things prove. You're talking about machlekes and halacha. Why are you bringing a palm tree and the walls of the Beis Medrash and the river to prove? The difference between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel was Beis Shammai is a Shomer Chaysav. Beis Shammai went according to the way of Lasid Lavai. Beis Shammai already now and here, they followed the path of the time of Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, the halacha will be like Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai already brought the depth of Torah, which can't be comprehended by a person now. It's helem, it's concealed, it's hidden, it's not able to be revealed. Beis Shammai followed already that path. They were charifi mechadidi tvei, they were sharper, they got the highest and deepest type of Torah, something which is main lasid lavai. Beis Shammai revealed the Torah of lasid lavai already bisman hazeh, but Beis Shammai didn't reveal it bisman hazeh because the halacha is not like Beis Shammai. Rabbi Eliezer was a shamutai. He said Tahir, which is the halacha, the way it is from Kutsha B'richu. The Baskel came out and said Tahir. But we have to be able to accept it now. What happened when Rabbi Eliezer said Tahir by Tanur Shalachnai? Come Rabbi Yeshua al Raglav. Rabbi Yeshua got up on his feet. Rabbi Yeshua, the one who's actually Eladatoi, the one who says Benisa Nivra Elam. Rabbi Yeshua, the one who says Benisa Nasin Ligal. Rabbi Yeshua, the one who comes from above. And Rabbi Yeshua got up on his feet. He lifted himself up to a higher level. He got up, it doesn't just say he stood up. Come Rabbi Yeshua al-Raglav on his own feet. He said, now from my own power, I'm lifting myself up and saying, Ein mashgichin bebaskel. Teira lei b'shamayim, it's up there, we can't accept it. Why did Rabbi Yeshua get up? He tried to take it. All the proofs that Rabbi Eliezer was bringing, the walls of the Beis Medrash, the Mayan, the tree, was all things which he was trying to make it be accepted into the people, into the Chachamim, this idea that he was saying, bring the higher level, bring it down to them. Rabbi Yeshua tried to get there too. But he said, no, it's not, we didn't. And that's why Birchu, they put him onto a level on his own, but it doesn't use the Lashon Shamtu, but Birchu. That was Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua was the one who had the power of Ashri Eladatoi, the power to say, but we can't draw it down. Rabbi Gamliel also went with the way of Beis Hillel. Rabbi Gamliel came from the Sheshalas of Beis Hillel. And yet, Rabbi Gamliel was trying as a Nasi, because that's the mission of a Nasi, to enable people here to reveal the godliness in the darkness of the night. The first mission in Brachis. Rabbi Eliezer says that Seifa Shmura Rishayna, Rabbi Eliezer is a Shamutai, he says we don't go further than that. We only go to what's able to be revealed, what's Behelim, the beginning of the night. Chachamim say until Chatzais, until you can split the night. Rabbi Gamliel as a Nasi says we have to bring it till Aleis HaShachar, till the morning. And yet Chachamim are arguing on him because it's not yet something which is able to be received and accepted in the world. That Giluyar can't come into the world. When the story happens in the Beis Medrash, and they ask Tfilas Arvis Rishus or Chayva, and later the Gemara tells us Eisei Talmud Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is the one whose job is to bring down the greatest secrets of the Torah into a way that everyone can understand it, and that's why he asked the question. Tfilas Arvis Rishus or Chayva, davening at night in the darkness, being able to recognize Elokus in the darkness. Is this something which is only a Rishus or it's a Chayva? Rabbi Yeshua said it's a Rishus. The same Rabbi Yeshua says it's a Rishus. We can't make it into a Chayva. We're not able to do it. Rabbi Gamliel wanted to make it into a Chayva. Rabbi Gamliel told Rabbi Yeshua, stand up on your feet. Stand up on your feet, because when you stand up on your feet, maybe we'll be able to bring that about to make it into a Chayva. To make us be able to bring down Tfilas Arvis. When they couldn't do it, they said, Tan Avrinu. This isn't someone who can be the Nasi. This isn't someone who can be the Nasi. What does that mean? Let's find someone else who can give us these higher powers, these greater powers in order to be the Nasi. And they found Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's Kale, Ezer, and Ezer Kor. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah has the help from above. But that still wasn't enough. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, Arei ani kiven shivim shana. 70 years means 10 years being mevarer all the 7 midas. Lo izachisi. I refined the world. I refined the world to an extent that now I can bring that down into the world. Through Ben Zayma, who's above the world, but Ben Zayma is above the world. I can bring it down into the world that we can say Krishma even Baleilis. And that's the power of the Nasi of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Once Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah brought that about, and especially after he said, V'shafti shvus ami Yisrael, the whole story, that he was able, then they said, now we can bring back Rabbi Gamliel. But we still need Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's koyach, but we can bring back Rabbi Gamliel. That's B'kitzer, the story, and I'm sorry of going at lengths with the whole pilpul in Nigla. Because if someone who learns it and reads it, you see there's so much more depth from one small few lines of what the Rebbe says of what's going on. But the basic point is, as the Rebbe explains, that Rabbi Gamliel said, Kol mi she'ein teichel kevarei lo yikanis l'beis hamedrash. Al derech hanhagas beis Shammai, except that the hanhagas beis Shammai is not the halacha bisman hazeh. The hanhagas beis Shammai is when ruach hatum aver min oretz. When there isn't any more someone who's not teichel kevarei. Rabbi Gamliel tried to bring it into this world, but he ended up not being able to bring it to most of the people. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah took away the Shemar Apsachim. He says now, and af Rabbi Gamliel leimana esas beis hamedrash afilu sha'achas. Rabbi Gamliel himself now had the power to be able to bring even the one who's not teichel kevarei, that he should be able to be in a way of ruach hatum aver min oretz. That's the koyach that came from Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That's the concept. In short, the idea that the Rebbe says. What's the Rebbe telling us? The Nasi, his mission and his job is that he's above the world, but yet he connects each one of us, and he gives each one of us the power to be able to live in that above the world, but even in a state of Ein Teichei Kavarei, even in a state of Zman Hazeh, even in a state of Leilos, even in a situation where it's dark, we can already live Yemaisa Mashiach in a way that this is the reality of our lives. How do we do it? Practically, we connect to the Nasi. And it's not just connecting to the Nasi, it's connecting to the Nasi, as we know, that now we're holding by Shivim Shana, 70 years. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah in his time began the mission. The Rambam in his time, who lived 70 years, began the mission and was able to write Hilchas Malachim and Hilchas Melech HaMashiach. The Frierdiker Rebbe, who lived for 70 years, began the mission, but then afterwards the Frierdiker Rebbe's neshama had to leave the body because he couldn't continue to bring us the same power as a neshama beguf. In our generation, it's the Doira Shvi 7, and it's 70. The Rebbe gave us the powers to do it. We're already getting long. Just to explain an idea. A lot of people got afraid. On Chav Ches Nisan, Tavshin Nun Aleph, the Rebbe said, I did everything I can, now do everything you can. People started getting nervous. What do you mean? The Rebbe did everything. The Rebbe's giving up, and now he's telling us to do it. What can we do? It's like the mashal, even if it's not exact mashal, but the idea of a father that his whole mission is to take his son and to train his son to be able to take over the business. Because that's the ultimate purpose of what the father is teaching. He wants his son to run the business. And so he teaches him, and he guides him, and he shows him, and he gives him whatever money he needs and whatever powers he needs. And then finally the father says to the son, okay, I've done everything, now it's your turn. What's the father giving up? No, the father's saying, I did everything that was necessary. I gave you everything. I gave you all the koiches. I gave you everything that there is. Now you have it in you. Now go do it. The Rebbe from Tafshin Yud, 70 years of Nesius, the Rebbe gave us and taught us and educated us and guided us how to live with Mashiach. And now the Rebbe says, I gave it to you all. I gave you everything. Now it's you. Not now it's you, you're on your own. Chas v'shalom, not you're on your own. Now it's you. Now you have that power. You have the Kel Ezer and Ezer Ka. You have that amazing strength from above. You can live it. You have that power and that ability. Yes, it makes no sense. That's the whole Chiddush. That's why only a Nasi can do it. That's why even Rabbi Gamliel said, it's either or. Either I'm Beis Shammai and I'm living with the time of Mashiach, but if I'm Beis Hillel, which is Bihiloi Neirei, I want to reveal it into now. Right now it's not revealed. So if the person is not Teichei Kavare, I can't let him in. What do we say? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said we can do both. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is the higher level. Similar to the Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, whose sheikel is kulam, both of them. What happened over here? In practical words, the Rebbe in his Teiras Achsidis, the Rebbe in his teachings and in his sichos that the Rebbe taught us, the Rebbe with his handaga that the Rebbe did for us, the Rebbe with everything he showed us over the years, including what the Rebbe continues to show us now, and to teach us now, and to guide us now. The Rebbe is giving us a power of atzmos, a power of being able to be in a situation of darkness, a power to be able to be in a situation of galus, and not only say, okay, I accept whatever Hashem gives me, not only say I trust that it's going to be good, but right now it's tough, but be able to actually live and dance and sing in a way that I'm living it, that it's really already good in the fullest way now, because of my full trust in Eibishter, because of how much I realize that the Eibishter is Kol Yachol, and he can do it without needing to have any other issues. The Rabbi gives us the ability to be in Galus, to be here in the darkness of Galus, and yet to live Mashiach to the extent that it's Lahavi Limaisa Mashiach, it brings Mashiach in actuality. That I could sit here on a Thursday night of Parshas Vayera in Tafshin Pei, when in the meantime it's still dark, and in the meantime I still haven't seen yet the Gili of the Gula, and be able to already live Gula to the extent, live Gula doesn't mean that I'm pretending it's Gula, because I still daven 3 times a day, and I face Yerushalayim, because I'm not in Yerushalayim. And yet I can mach Eretz Yisrael, I can live it in every moment of my life. Practically, it starts from the Torah, from learning, because the Rebbe put that all into the sichos. Every time I learn a sicha of the Rebbe, every time I learn a sicha about Mashiach, every time I learn an explanation which explains everything, and learn it deeply and kachzach in it, then that gives me the ability to live my life from the moment I wake up, that there is no galus. To live a life where I'm above galus. Because that's the koyach that the Nasi gives us. And especially now when we're 70 years. Lezechus means Zechisi, the Rebbe explains from the Lashon of Zakus, to refine. After 70 years it's being refined. After 70 years, and there's the Shitta in Sanhedrin, the Rebbe brings Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that Yemaisa Mashiach Shivim Shana. We had that Yemaisa Mashiach Shivim Shana that brought us to this point. Now we're ready to see it begali. And it's something which every one of us in our lives, by connecting to the Rebbe and by realizing what it means a Nasi, by connecting to the Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah of our generation. Keil Azar Ezer Ka, who gives us the help from above. The help to be able to be a Tefach Hecher from Welt, but not a Tefach Hecher from Welt in a way that I go out of the world, but that I can be in the world, and in this world I can live with this greatest Simcha and Bitachon, and the same thing in my Avodas Hashem, to be in a way that there's no Manias Vikuvim, there's nothing standing in the way, because here I am already in Yemaisa Mashiach, and to bring immediately all the Yeshuas and all the Geulas and the Refuas and the Chames, and like the Frierdiker Rebbe said, when they turned to the Frierdiker Rebbe, it was in the time of the Second World War, and they said to the Frierdiker Rebbe, it should be Yeshuas ben Chames. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, Ein Yeshua but a Richtige. One Yeshua we need. One salvation, that Mashiach comes, and the seconds of Galus, we live already in the light of Mashiach, and that brings B'Poel Mamish Lahavi L'Yimaisa Mashiach, to actually bring Yimaisa Mashiach B'Poel Mamish, that we see it B'nei Basar, and we go dancing, or we start already now the dancing, with the greatest Simcha, and the greatest joy, and the greatest Emunah and Bitachon, with the greatest Simcha of Mashiach is already here, and that we're going to see it with our own eyes at this very moment.